All right, Bill here from Maple Leaf Enterprises. I'm going to go over real quick today how to run AWR report in SQLDeveloper. Completely open source tool from oracle.com. Go to oracle.com. You can go to downloads, you go to development tools, and you can download this product essentially for free. I think you may have to give your email address and name. I don't think you need to have a full-blown My Oracle support account to get this. And you're going to want to download this, and it is available to you on a number of platforms. I happen to be using it on a Mac platform. So let's go ahead and let's look at how we do this. Now, there's two tabs. There's a connection tab, and this is basically just like a generalized connection type of thing. And if you want to create a new connection, you just hit this plus button right up here. And it will bring up a screen, and it will ask you for the usual things to connect with to an Oracle database. You know, what's your username? You can give it a name, right? Username, password. Do you want to save it? You can even give it a fancy color. Blah, blah, blah. And then what type of connection you actually want. If you do want to use like a TNS and you have a TNS file set up, you can actually go ahead and use that. And then there's also several different, you can actually connect to a cloud through this if you're using Oracle Cloud. So that you could basically set it up, and it's pretty straightforward. If you know how to connect through any other tool, you could set this up pretty quickly and have this going and be able to connect. Now, this is the connection I'm going to be using. I'm going to connect as a sys. I'm going to be connecting as a sysdba, right? Your role, which you probably shouldn't be doing, but I do it anyway because it's a test box, and I frankly don't care. And then your host name or IP address, and then you can actually go ahead and even test and hit the test button. It will come back and it'll tell you yay or nay. And in our case, I'm hoping it does say, okay, it was successful, and then you'll get a little status message down here, and then you can go ahead and connect. All right, so that is how you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to set that up. It's pretty straightforward. And then you're going to want to come over here, and once you're set up with the connection tab, all right, you're going to want to connect as the DBA. So there's a whole set of DBA tools in here. If you go up to Tools, up in the top window here, there is a thing that says where is it? Is it in Tools? I could be a big fat liar. It may be in View. It's actually in View, and there's a thing called DBA, okay? It's called DBA. And you click on that, it's going to bring this menu up. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to bring up all the information that's pertinent to being a DBA, right? You're not going to really have anything in here that's specific for development. If you're doing PL SQL, or you're an apps developer, or you're even a PL SQL developer, you're a SQL developer, you're not going to really find a heck of a lot of information in here that may be useful to you, because it's not really going to be geared toward coding. It's going to be specific to the database functions. Now, there is a way to make these tabs a little bigger. I wish I could make them a lot bigger. It's kind of a pain in the neck. I don't want to get into that here. But this is going to bring up all these things. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to come down and you're going to go to Performance. See where it says Performance? And you're just going to click on that tab. All right, and this is where you're going to get all your performance matrix, and it's pretty easy. I mean, they've really made it pretty convenient for someone who's a non-DBA to run these AWR reports. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to come down to the AWR, and there's actually an AWR report viewer. And what you're going to want to do is just click on that. You're going to get another window, excuse me, and what it's going to do is it's going to bring up this selection tool. All right, and then it's also going to give you a database. Now, in another video, I'm going to actually explain a little better on what you can do. Basically, what you could do is you can actually export these performance matrix from another database and import them into a centralized location, which I do quite often, especially when I'm doing performance tuning for different customers. It's a lot easier for me to pull it into an environment that I'm familiar with. I don't have to worry about collecting matrix off a production box. Pretty much just capture that information that I need, and then I can run my analysis locally and have that information and be able to run reports and not have an impact on production. So you can actually have multiple database instances in your performance repository here. So we're just going to use the one, which is this one right here. This one's my little database. And then you're going to want to run either by snapshot or by baseline. And basically a baseline is actually two sets of snapshots that you've created that represents what you believe to be a good workload on your system. So if I know I ran some reports last night and I ran them from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock at night, I could go in and find the two snapshots, one that was at 9 because they're done at every hour. I can find the snapshot at 9 o'clock last night and 12 o'clock this morning. I can create a baseline from that, and that will actually get stored, and I can use that again as a baseline. That is my baseline. So I'm going to try and compare everything that I do going forward back to that baseline, because that is going to be considered a template workload, so to speak. Without giving you the white paper answer for what that is, that's really what it is. It's a template workload. That's the easiest way I can explain it. I'm sure there's somebody who's probably 10 times smarter than me that may even give you an answer that sounds a lot more sophisticated than that. That's really what it is. It's just a template workload. And then you're going to go in here and you're going to, whenever you want to run this report, you're going to pick whatever time. So I talked about last night at 9 o'clock. So just for argument's sake, let's just go and look at, and let's start our report at 9 o'clock last night, which is right here, which is 362. So we're going to start our run, right? That's going to be our beginning snapshot, and our end snapshot is going to be at 12, right? Which is going to be 317. Actually, no. Let me just redo that real quick. I didn't look at the date. That's September 27th. So whenever date it is, it's 9 o'clock p.m. So we're going to look at September 27th. We're going to look for September 27th at 12 o'clock. Now, we know it runs every hour, so it's going to be like 365 or something like that. But just to be precise about it, it is 365, right? So because it's going to be 12 o'clock a.m. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click this. And then you're going to come up here, and you're going to hit this little button right here. And this is going to actually execute the AWR report, and it's going to generate the report real time. And we're going to get it right on our screen. And you could do this for any time frame. I happen to be doing it for a 3-hour time span. You could do it for a 1-hour time span. The more granular, the better, obviously, right? If you're really looking to dig into issues going on your machine, you're going to want to start with a 1-hour block, right? Go to a 1-hour block. So if let's say, for example, you have a 3 or 5, in our case, we have a 3-hour window that we ran a load, okay? I'm going to want to take the 9 to 10 o'clock. I'm going to do the 10 to 11 o'clock. I'm going to do the 11 to 12 o'clock. So I'm going to take those 3 reports. I'm going to save those. And then I'm going to take the one report from 9 to 12. And those are going to be basically the reports that I'm going to use to do my analysis on the database. All right. And what you're really going to want to look for here, especially from a application point of view, a lot of the stuff in the beginning of this report is going to be more DBA centric and more hardware database configuration type stuff that you may not want to really focus on, but as a developer in looking to see, is my code running right? Is the way I have my application structured, doing what it's supposed to do, and is it running the most efficient? What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the bottom of this report where the SQL statements are. All right, this is where you're going to want to focus most of your time, on your SQL statistics. This is going to basically give you what's running good and what's running bad, and what are your high profile SQL statements. And it's going to actually rank them in a few different reports. It's going to do it by elapsed time. It's going to do it by CPU, okay? It's going to do by IO weight. It's going to do by ordered gets. It's going to do it by reads. It's going to do it by physical reads, executions, parse, right? It's going to go in by all these different things and rank the SQL that's running. Now, most of which that's in this system, like when you go in here and it's going to tell you the module, right? So most of the stuff running in my database here is all internal stuff that I'm not going to go and tune the MMON slave or the DBMS scheduler, because that would mean that nothing else is really running on this machine. But for example, if I had a large delete statement like this, I'll just take this, even though this is an internal query, it's not running by any module. You'd be able to know right away here, like, hey, we're running some Java module, whatever it is, or JBoss, right? And would come up as a JDBC type of module in here, and I would know that's my application, right? So I could just click on that query, and it's going to go in and show me exactly what was running. And this is where you're going to want to start drilling down, and this is going to be your hash value here, this ridiculously long number here. That's the number you're going to want to start. These are the numbers you're going to want to start saving from a performance point of view when you're looking at the SQL. And then when you start taking these numbers, all right, and I'll do another video on this, you could start running these through what they call an active session history report, and also through a SQL tuning exercise. We could take this hash value, basically run it back into the database with this program called DBMS Tuning Advisor, and it will grind through that SQL, and it will literally spit back a better way to do it if one so exists. It will say, here, use this index, or you have fragmentation. You may want to consider a partition table, or I'm just throwing these things out there. But that is kind of where you're going to want to start. And before you really start digging into making changes, you're really going to want to run these reports and see what SQL is going to be the low-hanging fruit to do your analysis on. Okay, and that's where I would get started, especially from an application point of view. That is where you're going to want to focus. Again, with all the stuff in the beginning of this report, this is more DBA centric, or my buffer cache, right? This is all stuff that's more architecture. Is my SGA set properly? Are my redo logs on fast enough disks? Is my I/O, is my disk subsystem performing optimally? Is my operating system set up right? Is my network set up right? These are all things that you're going to get from the top of this report that a lot of times from an application point of view, you're probably worth overlooking that. Now, if it turns out that some of the SQL that you have is causing these things, now obviously you're going to want to go in and start looking at maybe some of the architectural things that you can change. But as far as low-hanging fruit is concerned, that is where you're going to want to spend 90% of your time as far as running these reports. Get the SQL that you're going to want to concentrate on, because that's what you have most control over. All right, and you're going to want to tune that SQL. And then the next set, I'll actually go in and show you how you can run like an explain plan and run one of these tuning sets. And I hope this helps.